that. Then we can notice here that we kind of have an appreciation for this coat rack kind of thing, right? And this is the collecting duct. It's not part of the nephron. Okay? Not part of the nephron. The collecting duct is not. So you can, again, recognize the corpuscle. You got PCT, loop of Henle, and then DCT, but no collecting duct. That's not part of it, even though it is the same color yellow there. You can even probably imagine that other DCTs would be dumping into there, and that would be the case. Okay? So any questions on what the parts of the nephron are? And again, appreciate this with the loop of Henle, ascending and descending limb. And then also, it's called the countercurrent mechanism if we want. We can even throw that word in there too, countercurrent mechanism, okay? Which is, again, describing that flow of fluid, okay? And then also notice we've got thick areas, which would be cuboidal, and thinner areas, which can be squamosal type cells. All right, questions on that? All right, so let's keep going. Okay, it's flow of fluid. The flow of fluid. Flow of fluid, that's what they're saying. The flow of fluid, okay. We start off in Bowman's capsule, right? We know that from the previous image there. Bowman's capsule, fluid is going to be flowing in. And from there, if we follow the arrows from the other slide, you can see we go to the PCT, okay? So, but before we go too far, we should probably say, we have to name this fluid that we're talking about. Even though we can recognize the flow in the Bowman's capsule there, we should even then say, what can we call the fluid as it goes from one area to the other? Because when you study things in anatomy, things change names depending on where you're talking. So this will hold true as well. So let's start now with the BC, okay, Bowman's capsule. If you know that what process will go on in there that we already decided? Filtration, right? Glomerular filtration. We can call the fluid now that will be in there as a result of filtration, filtrate, ultrafiltrate, 30 names, 8 names, the same thing, right? Filtrate, ultrafiltrate, or if you want, Bowman's fluid, also acceptable. Okay, Bowman's fluid, whichever one you wish. Filtrate, ultrafiltrate, or Bowman's fluid. That is the name of the fluid in Bowman's capsule. Okay, so just as a quick side note here, we have these great looking models in the cadaver lab, not the cadaver lab, but our own lab. I'm thinking of cadaver because I was there today for the group. Anyway, they have great models there, and I can put my probe in Bowman's space, and I can ask him to name the fluid. Name the location of my probe and the fluid that's in there, and your choices are filtrate, ultrafiltrate, or Bowman's fluid, whichever one. That's how that would come into play. Okay, so we've got Bowman's capsule there. We know it's going to be filtrate, or all the other ones I just said. We go into the PCT, proximal convoluted tubule. What can we call this fluid? Any guesses? Seems pretty straightforward.
Tubular?
Yeah, that's what it's called. It's called tubular fluid. That's what it is. Tubular fluid. And it will be tubular fluid through this tube here, loop of Henle, to the DCT, tubular fluid, okay, into the collecting duct, okay, tubular fluid because it's still a tube. And now as you enter into the papillary duct, which is right at the tip. Remember those medullary pyramids? Remember those medullary pyramids I showed? Right at the tip of those pyramid is the papillary duct, okay? Once the fluid enters in that papillary duct, it's called, what would you guess? It is called urine, yes. So now we have a name change as we make our way through from the corpuscle, okay, filtrate, ultrafiltrate, Bowman's fluid, into the PCT, tubular fluid, okay. We continue through our tubes until we get down to papillary duct. Into the papillary duct, it then becomes urine, all right? It then becomes urine. So, and again, you can probably imagine the rest of it. Calyx, the calyces, minor, major, renal pelvis, ureter, urinary bladder, urethra. All that is urine too. That's the pathway of fluid. But be aware of the name changes of the fluid, because if we say, hey, what happens with the tubular fluid is that this and this and this go on, and if you don't know what the tubular fluid is or where it's found, then you'll be completely lost. So keep track of these terms: filtrate, tubular fluid, and urine. We won't spend a lot of time on urine until towards the end, But we have special interest, of course, in the filtrate and obviously the tubular fluid. But these are the name changes that the fluid undergoes as it traverses those different parts of the nephron, or in that case, lack thereof if you're after the collecting. Okay, so as fluid flows, change name and constituents. It does change constituents. Would you guess? Is urine the same as blood? And not at all. It makes drastic changes as it makes its way through the glomerulus into the PCT, the DCT, the loop of Henle, all those. Makes big changes, right? Big changes. And we got to figure out what those changes are and how those changes are made. And there's the terms right there. Filtrate, ultrafiltrate, even bone fluid if you wish. Okay with that so far? I didn't realize those were already there. Just moved on. All right. So, another picture of our nephrons. If we had to name this nephron, what would you call that type? Any guesses? Cortical? Yeah, and this one looks like a nice juxtamedullary. Yes, yes. So what's to appreciate on this one is, first of all, we can see that we've got, oopsie, we don't want that. We can see that we've got our blood vessels coming down in here. You can also see, if you follow the arrows, you can see the blood going in this way, okay? And then we can see blood going back this way, arrows this way, okay? You can see it even takes on a different bit of a color change too, if you will, right? And so we have to recognize that. So as we have this blood vessel make its way into the glomerulus, this is the feeder vessel, if you will. This is the afferent arteriole, a feeder vessel into the glomerulus, right? We don't care where it's off of, but a feeder vessel into the glomerulus is the afferent arteriole, right? So as we make our way through there, afferent arteriole, we can figure out what goes on in there, which is called glomerular filtration, right? Goes on in there. And then leaving that glomerulus is the efferent arteriole. Efferent arteriole, right? Efferent. So afferent is a feeder, and then the efferent is the draining one, if you will. But it's still arterial, okay? It's still an arterial. But just refresh your memory on arterioles. What do you expect to see in the tunica media of an arteriole? Then why don't we just replace that with maybe a venule? Afferent venule, efferent venule. Let me ask the question again. What would you expect to see in the tunica media of an arteriole? Anybody?
Smooth muscle.
Yes, how much? A lot or a little?
A lot.
A lot, yes. I know you probably said a lot, I just didn't catch it. Yeah. Lots and lots and lots of smooth muscle. Layers and layers and layers and layers. So that sounds like these arterioles have the capacity, the great capacity as a whole, to regulate the size of the lumen, regulate the blood flow. Okay? That's why there are arterioles there, not venules and things like that. We need layers and layers and layers of smooth muscle. Okay? So there's our efferent arteriole. Now look closely here. The efferent arteriole is giving rise to capillaries. That's kind of a weird arrangement, isn't it? Okay? We got our arteriole, we've got capillary, arteriole, and now capillary again. Because then this was our arteriole, capillary, arteriole, capillaries. These capillaries here that are around the tubes, peritubular capillaries, all around the tubes, hence the name. See, the names generally do make sense. And peritubular capillaries. Okay? Now, you don't appreciate here very well, because these are very short loops of Henle, you don't appreciate the other capillary group that is also given rise by the efferent arteriole. And these capillaries surround the long loops of Henle. Right? And these are straight vessels, hence the word recta is straight. These are the vasa recta. These are vasa recta, also capillaries, also given rise to by the efferent arteriole, but they're found around the long loops of Henle. Right? So these are capillaries now. If they're around the tubes, peritubular. If around the long loops of Henle, and they're straight vessels, and they are, hence the name vasa recta. Okay, vasa recta. What do you notice about the vasa recta? They're going, okay, they have what? A descending portion too, don't they? And an ascending portion, this way, okay? Descending, ascending. they follow, okay, they follow that descending limb and ascending limb orientation. Right? That's important. That's important to recognize because, and I'll leave it alone for this, but I'll come back when we figure out what their job is. If they didn't do that, or didn't have orientation, if they didn't go down and up, have a descending and ascending orientation, and they went just this way, across like that, seems like, why in the world are you following the long loops? You could just go across like this, make it a lot easier. Seems like logical, right? But no, their orientation is integral to how this long loop of Henle works. Right? If these didn't follow that long loop of Henle, these being the vasorecta, didn't follow that long loop of Henle with the descending and an ascending orientation, then we would not have a functioning nephron. Wouldn't work. Wouldn't work. Okay? But their orientation is key. They too have a what type of flow? Counter current flow. Okay? They have a counter current flow, just like that you see in the long loop of Henle.